Welcome to Mac and Bleu, where we introduce you to who is building Arizona, bringing you the people and businesses that shape the landscape around us. From economic development and developers, underwriters and lenders, architects and engineers, to the very builders and suppliers that bring it all together. For all things Mac and Bleu, head to www.macandbleu.com and don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Now let's join our host, JJ Levenske.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Mac and Bleu. I'm JJ Levenske, your co-host. No, I am the host, but apparently my alter ego is going to be the co-host today. I am the CEO and co-founder of Bleuwave General Contracting. Today, we're lucky enough to have Jack Oslan, co-founder and CEO of Diamond Age. Before we get in, Jack, what the hell is Diamond Age and what do you do?
Oh my gosh.
Well, just give the high level, then we'll go back to some personal stuff.
Yeah.
But what is Diamond Age?
Diamond Age is a technology construction platform. So think of it like we're building robots bigger than houses to build houses.
Say that again.
We are building robots bigger than houses to build houses.
Okay.
Yep. So, depending on who the audience is, some people like to hear this as large-scale industrial hardware. Other people like to hear this as you're solving the housing problem.
Right.
But, truth be told, you roll out onto one of our job sites and you see a gigantic platform surrounding a concrete foundation, building a home.
Well, let's get back into that later. Let's start with a little bit about maybe you and your crazy brain first. So, I'll even go one step further back. When I saw a story about you and Diamond Age, and you do have partners, right?
I do. I have 7 co-founders. This is not something you want to do by yourself.
Exactly. So when I first saw the article or maybe it was a snippet on you, I was like, oh, this is perfect for the Mac and Bleu podcast because, where the ethos is kind of building Arizona, and that can be anything in a more generalist type aspect. So, and then started looking a little bit at your background. I was like, oh, not only is Diamond Age cool, but Jack's background's kind of cool and how you got into this. So the audience at least has context and kind of have a relatability to you. Can you kind of just tell us a little bit maybe about your educational background, like where you grew up, things like that before we get into kind of the nitty-gritty?
Sure. I think the things that are most relevant is that I spent the first 25 years of my career in the sort of high-speed, high-volume print and packaging world. So
really?
I came out of a world of factory automation. And when you fast forward today and look at the Diamond Age solution, it is really based on factory automation. So I spent 25 years in that world, sort of developed this passion for technology companies. I was living in Northern California, and I was watching all these amazing companies be born and scale and solve big problems. And I decided that was something that was really near and dear to me. That's something I wanted to accomplish in my professional life. So I spent a lot of time studying entrepreneurs and studying companies. And I had the opportunity back in 2011 to have a unique problem cross my path. I will say up front that most people who do startups and are successful, I think they have a problem find them as opposed to them finding the problem.
That's a profound statement.
Yeah, I spent the first half of my life growing up in the Midwest. So back in an era where all food tasted great because it was fresh. And I happened to be in the grocery store with my daughter, and she said, "Dad, let's get some strawberries." And I said, "No, you don't want strawberries. They taste terrible." And she said, No, strawberries are great. Let's get some strawberries." And so I did the, look over my left shoulder, look over my right shoulder. Nobody was looking. I grabbed a box of strawberries. I opened them up and I said, "I'll take one and you take one, and we'll bite them at the same time. And you tell me what that tastes like." So she bites into hers and she says, "Tastes like a strawberry." I bite into mine. I said, "This tasted like shit." And she said, "No, Dad, this is what a strawberry tastes like." And in the moment, I knew I had a problem because she had no idea what a fresh strawberry tasted like. So I just thought about all the generations that were growing up not really knowing what fresh produce tasted like, and had to dig under the hood and say, why is this? Because it was that way when I was a kid. So I spent some time digging around, found out that over the last 50 years, food had been re-engineered to travel, not taste good, travel and look good. So, I just dug into that and said, there's got to be a better way. Discovered a guy out of the University of Laramie, Wyoming, who had built this vertical growing platform. And through a series of conversations and about a year of stalking him, I think that's probably the right way to say it, I convinced him to be my co-founder, and we launched a company that's now known as Plenty. And if your viewers are interested, they can find that company out at plenty.ag. It is an amazing company, and they are growing produce indoors 30 feet straight up in the air, and delicious food.
Well, I brought you on for Diamond Age, but hell, let's talk about that for a little bit because it's cool, right? So, well, just keep expanding on the story. I don't need to prompt you.
So Plenty is a going concern based out of Laramie, Wyoming. We started the company in Northern California back in 2014.
Okay.
Got Google to give us a little seed money
Nice.
to start a project. That project turned into more venture capital funding, started a big farm up in South San Francisco, and fast forward to today, and now the company is scaling with the likes of Walmart and Safeway, Albertsons, Whole Foods, Driscoll's, and my technical co-founder, brilliant agronomist named Nate Story, is now basically driving that company forward, and everybody on the coast at least should be excited to be getting fresh strawberries and fresh.
So are you
leafy
still actively
greens.
involved then? Or are you putting most of your energy into Diamond
I'm
Age?
putting the majority of my energy into Diamond Age. That's
Okay.
my day-to-day gig. I still am an advisor to the company, and
Nice.
when the company reaches out for engineering help, we
They tap Jack's brain.
we send some talent their way out of our network, and
Okay.
yeah, it's just great. It's great to watch the company continue to get better.
So, in the context of what Mac and Blue is about building Arizona, let's still stay on Plenty. Are these the type of vertical farms where are you guys building new? Are you typically going into an asset class that is a refurbished, or a reclassification? Like, what does it look like for bricks and mortar?
Yeah, so we started with the taking an existing building and trying to do a retrofit. And what the company has found out is that to really be to optimize the cost benefit of what the farm has to deliver, they've entered into a new build development arrangement.
And you guys have kind of figured out a proprietary system that works best.
Yeah, really, that's what it is.
Okay.
It's Nate developed a vertical growing platform, patented it. It's remarkable in its potential, and they're delivering results into the marketplace, so it's exciting.
So one of the things that we're going to eventually do too is get, and I hope you don't mind me doing a parallel story here, but again, for the audience sake, so they kind of have comprehension here. Eventually, I want to get the pot or the cannabis industry on here to talk about that. How does Plenty differ, or what is it in the same as far as like in the inside growing, as far as like water, power consumption, those kind of things?
Yeah.
What's the story there, and kind of put that in perspective, if you don't mind, Jack?
Yeah, so it's hydroponics. It's a take on hydroponics. It's just instead of growing horizontally, it's growing vertically, and there's some dramatic advantages to growing vertically from a space perspective, from a utilization of energy perspective, and there's a lot of plant science involved, and Nate would be much more interesting to talk to on that front than I am. But at the end of the day, the cannabis industry probably is not a candidate for what Plenty is doing because it's the profile of the plant that makes the difference. But, maybe some of us had some experience with indoor agriculture in college in our closets. Not naming names, but
Hey, shit happens, right?
That's right. That's right. And what stays in college, what happens in college stays in college.
I am curious though. How does the water work? Is there a lot of recycling in that?
It is all recirculatory. That's what hydroponics is based on. So, they're using 95% less water to effectively increase the yields over field farming by about
95%
less water.
Okay.
So they use a fraction of the water because it's captured and recirculated, and they have an advantage in the crops that they produce at about a 350x improvement over growing it outdoors.
On yield. Okay. Then how do you translate? So you've covered water, you've covered yield. How would you describe the power in versus the yield out? So, so out in the normal world, you got diesel and all the stuff that's going to the tractors and whatever. And I realize it's not a 1-to-1 ratio or analysis, but then the electrical for the grow on the grow side for lights or whatever you have to do. How does that translate? Do you have any data there?
So I don't have the data.
In generalization, maybe.
Yeah. So the key to indoor agriculture is you have to have a yield high enough to overcome the energy inputs.
There you go.
Right?
Okay.
And so in the world of plants like certain temperatures, they like certain humidities, they like certain nutrients, certain soil types, X amount of pH in the water. And so that's what indoor agriculture is able to optimize for. And it's Plenty's 350x yield improvement that overcomes the energy inputs.
And again, I'm asking questions from like a consumer base because my mind's going 800 miles an hour now. So in Plenty's growth, no pun intended, does it become even more efficient if you specialize? So like this vertical grow facility, and let's use the San Fran area if that's where you said in the Bay Area. Okay, this one's only lettuce and greens, and over here you have more of a distinct vegetable. Do you have economies of scale if you do that, or is it all grown in the same area?
No, you do have economies of scale because different crops have different input requirements. So,
and is that how Plenty's planning on doing it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there are certain crops, especially on the coasts, especially the East Coast, even more so than the West Coast. But California is a specialty crop area. All the row crops are grown in the middle of the country.
True.
Right? And then the East Coast is sort of like the odd man out. They have none of it. And so Plenty is building a gigantic farming facility in Virginia to serve the East Coast. And they're starting with Driscoll's Berries. Driscoll's an investor in the company, and they're the 800-pound gorilla of berry production. And so Plenty has really provided them an opportunity to sort of unlock some of the growth potential because they can get closer to the consumers.
Now, do you have a facility here in Arizona?
We do not.
Okay.
Right now there's a big facility in Los Angeles and this new facility in Virginia, and the company these facilities are so large, they really cover a lot of territory.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So,
okay. I'm sure we could spend the whole episode on that, but that isn't why I invited you here. Okay. So you're obviously a brilliant guy. Just take that as a compliment. And so then Plenty, you're successful there. And then how did Diamond Age come to fruition?
Yeah, so same kind of thing happened. Back in 2017, my son called me and he said, "Dad, I think I'm going to move my family because we can't afford to buy a house." And I was completely disconnected from the problem because I hadn't bought a house in 30 years. And so I said, what are you talking about? You can't buy a house. I mean, I would understand that if like he was a car mechanic and his wife was a school teacher, but he runs the executive recruiting team at Waymo, and she's a pediatric cardiology nurse practitioner at Stanford Children's Hospital.
So they're not like they're
not paupers.
Yeah.
So I said, you got to be kidding me. You guys can't afford to buy a house. And so I started looking at it again, sort of with that inquisitive, curious mind that says, why is this like it is? And I come to find this housing crisis that's steeped in labor constraint.
Agreed.
Yeah. So you're a construction professional, and so I just started to dig into it, and my process is to write a business thesis on how to solve the problem. That's how I go about.
That's your approach. Yep.
That's my process for educating myself. And when I came out the other side of that, what I found was an extraordinary problem with an extraordinary opportunity. Because if you can solve the problem, then you have a really remarkably large business opportunity. So as every good idea guy has to have a good technical guy. Mine was Nate Story in Plenty.
Right.
In Diamond Age, it's a gentleman named Russell Verone.
Okay.
And so Russell and I have been friends for years. He had moved interestingly enough, from Tempe to Northern California to take over an executive engineering role at Tesla. And
really?
Yeah.
So he's no dummy either.
No, yeah. Russell is no slouch. There's no doubt about that. And the thing about Russell is he's extraordinarily creative.
Okay.
And that's the thing that you need in a technical co-founder is, I can push a business thesis across the table at you and say, if we could solve these things, we'd have this amazing business and we'd solve this amazing societal problem. So what has to be true from a technical perspective for that to happen? And that's when Russell took that and he went off and did what he did, which was, really start to look at the existing industry, bricks and mortar construction, looked at the technology advancements that were entering the space, 3D printing, modular construction, things like that, and then went off and developed his own technology thesis around it. And so we came together and said, okay, we have the foundation for what potentially could work. Now we've got to go do the most responsible thing that we can do, and that is go talk to people in the industry and find people to talk us out of this. Because doing a startup is hard. All startups are expensive, no matter how you shake it. And so we started talking to people in the construction trade. We talked to builders. We talked to engineering firms. We talked to architects. We already knew what the consumers were saying.
Give it to us.
Right, yeah, bring it. And so we talked to people and they said, your business thesis is correct. Your technology thesis sounds plausible. But what we didn't expect to hear were things like that the existing industry is graying out, that there are 4 people leaving the home construction industry for every 1 person that's entering. Those are the kinds of things that over a not too distant time frame will actually destroy an industry.
Okay.
And so we knew that technology would have to play a role in keeping the industry, advancing forward.
So at that juncture then, Jack, because I don't know the intricacies of what you just described. So I get the plan, but now after getting that feedback, did that alter the plan, or did it augment the plan, or did it validate the plan? All the above?
It didn't necessarily validate the plan as much as it. So the very last guy we talked to was an architect.
Okay.
A friend of mine.
Keep going.
A friend of mine was an architect. He had gone to work for a new firm. He said, you need to meet the founder of this company because he's done a lot of work in the production housing space, which is where we play.
The modular.
No, production housing is tract housing.
Right? Production. Okay.
Right. And so we got done talking to this guy, and at the end, we still weren't necessarily convinced that we were going to do it. And he just looked across the table at us and said, if you don't do this, the housing industry is going to crater because there aren't going to be enough people to build houses. He said, you have a moral obligation to the future.
Moral
Obligation to fix this, because what you have laid out in front of me is a plausible plan. It's a little sci-fi-ish right now, but it's steeped in the fundamentals of taking existing technology and applying it in new and novel ways.
Okay.
And so we left there, and on our way back to the Bay Area, we were up in the Sacramento area. I just looked at Russell, and he looked over at me, and he said, look, I'll put $50,000 in today, and let's go experiment. So we each wrote a check for $50,000, started the business, got a shop space, and then we had to go about the business of finding other people to help us.
Okay.
And that's when he reached out into his network at Tesla. He had moved on from Tesla at this point, and he had been building drones for another startup, big medical delivery drones.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He's got his own startup experiences as well. And so he reached back out in his network of all the guys that helped him be successful at Tesla. And I said, here's the pitch. I said, what we promise people is that they can work 7 days a week for a 99% chance of failure.
I love it.
But they get to do it their own way.
There comes a time when dreams become a reality, when you see your vision materialize into a true work of art. And the only way to get there is to choose a general contractor who shares that same vision and knows how to bring it to life. At Bleuwave, we aren't so big that we've forgotten where we've come from, and we aren't so small that we can't care for your projects regardless of their size. When your vision deserves safety, perfection, timeliness, and expertise in order to become a reality, trust Bleuwave to get it done right the first time.
That's probably the best sales pitch I've ever heard.
So, for guys who have, ever been disrespected in their job, passed over for promotion, have been fired for telling their boss the truth.
Yeah.
Like Diamond Age was a refuge for guys like that.
The island of misfit toys.
Yeah, exactly. And, we sort of took on this persona of the junkyard dogs and just went about the business of figuring out if we could figure it out. And got some really remarkable co-founders, guys with amazing mechanical engineering skills, electrical engineering skills, software development, and like everybody just got to work.
So, Jack, let's jump ahead only so we can come back and continue it, because I think we'd be remiss if we didn't let the audience know like what the hell it is that Diamond Age builds.
Yeah.
We talked about all this, how we're getting there, but I just try to put myself in the listener's shoes. It's like, well, that's great, Jack, but what the hell are you guys actually building?
Yeah, we are building single-family entry-level homes.
Okay, and approximately, give me some square footages.
Yeah, we're building between 1,500 and 2,000 square foot single-story homes currently.
Okay.
3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. Today we're building out in the exurbs, right, which is just outside of the suburbs, which is just outside of the metro areas. So, generally these are areas that are about an hour drive to a major metropolitan area.
Okay.
So we're located kind of an hour between Tucson and Phoenix today, building for the 9th largest home builder in the country, Century Communities.
There you go. So now are you only the builder or are you the developer as well?
Yeah, so we're actually not the builder and we're not the developer.
Okay.
We are the vertically integrated general contractor who is taking the vertical infrastructure piece off of a home builder's plate.
Bingo. So now let's go in. Now give the narrative and the story of that's great. Now we have the product. What does it look like? And then we can come back to the technology. Or as you're telling the story, intermix the technology and how you're going vertical, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So the one of the things that was mission critical about the business thesis was identifying the key stakeholders.
Okay.
Okay. So we came down to 3 key stakeholders: home buyers, home builders, and regulatory agencies.
Oh.
Right? If any one of the three of those does not adopt, the whole thing fails. Right? Buyers don't buy, there's no cause. Right? Builders don't want to hire us to build homes for them, doesn't work. If regulatory agencies won't give us building permits and certificate of occupancies, doesn't work. So we said, what's the easiest path to get all three of them to buy in? And so we settled on this concept of familiarity.
Okay.
Deliver houses that look like houses. I mean, that sounds dumb, but we're sitting in a room right now with drywall and regular ceilings and lightings, and the idea was to build houses that looked like the house you grew up in, as opposed to some of these new architectural studies that 3D printers are trying to bring to market. Right? So then we said home builders, which is kind of an interesting oxymoron there. It's a juxtaposition between, do you really build a home or do you develop land and sell product?
The latter of the two.
The latter of the two. So how do we solve the problem for them? Well, the way the industry works is it's a completely outsourced environment anymore.
Yeah.
Right? They're outsourcing the horizontal infrastructure, outsourcing the vertical infrastructure, and then what they're really great at is developing land or acquiring land, project financing, and then the disposition of the final product, whether it's a sale of a home or a leasing of a home in the case of build to rent. And so we're solving that middle piece of the supply chain by building the home on the dirt.
Got it.
And the regulatory, we had to figure out what they would buy into. So we went off and we studied the building code and said, okay, we think that the technology can deliver some cross between dry stack masonry, post-tension walls, and composite wall panels. Right? And that was sort of an outcropping of how are we going to build a structure that will pass code.
Got it.
Right? So we use a little bit of additive manufacturing. It's not really 3D printing, but you would mistake it for 3D printing if you didn't know better.
Okay.
How do we solve structural? How do we make them safe? Right? Because that's job one. Well, post-tension walls are about as safe as they get. We build with concrete.
Okay.
So post-tensioning is the number one way that concrete is made structurally sound. And then how do we make the home better? How do we make them energy efficient? How do we make them waterproof? And so we use a closed cell foam in between our layers of concrete, and a lot of happy accidents happen. I'm not going to lie. We didn't go into this and say, hey, if we take all these things and mash them up together, we'll yield this. We started solving problems one at a time. And then when we got to the end of that road, we had a third-party performance engineering firm come in and validate our work, because nobody should take our word for it. I mean, housing is, it's the biggest purchase most people are ever going to make in their life. People's safety is at stake. And the emotional side of buying a house is all about building families and memories and things like that. And
right.
So we wanted to deliver on all of those things. So, again, we set about solving the problems one at a time, and a few happy accidents happened, and we wound up in a really amazing place with a structural wall system that delivers on all of the above.
So again, for the audience sake, we can't do a video here. Walk me through, what does it look like when I come to one of your projects, and what give me the duration or how you're solving all those problems. You talked about you build a robot to build a house. So what does it look like, Jack?
Yeah. So,
I know because I've seen your videos, but I'm trying to help the audience here.
No, fair enough.
Sorry.
Fair enough. No. Look, for anybody who does want a visual, they can go to diamondage3d.com and they can.
It's cool.
Yeah, you'll see some super interesting stuff there. Yeah. But it's we build this big superstructure around the concrete foundation. It's
so they're getting a concrete guy to come in and set the foundation before you?
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Then go from there.
Yep. So the home builder will deliver us a bunch of lots with concrete foundations on them. We roll in with these large superstructures, set them up around the concrete foundation. Takes about 24 hours to do that. And then we go through a whole series of robotic tasks. So that's literally what we're doing is we're replacing manual labor tasks with automation.
Okay.
Right? So the very first thing we do actually is we have a LiDAR scanning tool that scans the foundations because anybody who's in the trade knows that there's no such thing as a square foundation. They are all parallelograms. So we scan
And not level.
and not level, right? We can overcome that as well, but so we take the tools that we have and create an as-built environment, so we know exactly what the robotics has to accomplish.
Okay.
Right? So then we'll prep the foundation for the post-tension systems, and then we go to the print tool, and then we start effectively 3D printing the walls. So if you think about it as in the trades, they call them a withe, right? That just means an inner and an outer layer. So we print an interior and exterior layer of concrete. And we do that because we put all the plumbing and electrical inside the walls because that's where it goes. Nobody wants it on the inside of their house. Nobody wants it on the outside of their house. They don't want to see it. They want it in the walls because that's how houses are built. So we leave enough space to accomplish that. All the post-tension structurals inside the wall, all the foam for insulation is inside the wall so that when you as a homeowner show up, you're just walking into what could be any house in America. You wouldn't have any idea that it was 3D printed or built by a robot unless you watched it happen or somebody told you.
So back to the labor savings is the crew or crews or individual or again, I've seen the video, but what give the audience a perspective of how many people does it take then to manage that or the oversight on that.
Yeah.
Let's just take one house pad.
Yeah. So at any one time, we'll have between one person and say 4 people, depending on the actual task that they're operating.
Okay.
So printing requires 4 people.
Oh,
so somebody to sort of man the giant robotic system, one person to watch the tool as it's operating, and then a couple of people on the support side because we're mixing concrete, we're filling our system, we're bringing in rocks and sand, and so just the logistics. But 4 people, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Because what we're doing is we're replacing a framing crew.
Yeah.
And so that process itself today takes about 15 days to print all the walls. Now that sounds slow, but we're not really worried about what the individual task takes. We're focused on how long does it take to deliver the entire house.
Okay.
And so today we're delivering houses on a 60-day schedule.
60 days.
60. And what is sort of most rewarding about that is about twice as fast as the gold standard in the industry and about 4 times faster than the industry average. So there's a lot of benefit that come with reducing cycle times. It has an impact on the cost for the builders. It puts people in a position to effectively buy a home and get their home in a reasonable time frame. So these are the things that we're accomplishing as the company continues to advance.
What we probably need to take a bunch of different tangents here. The QA/QC that you were talking about is how do you outsource that? Do you third party it or do you do that in house?
Yeah, everything is in house. So
Okay.
We basically are treating this as a robotics as a service
Got it.
business. So we bring all the automation, all the support systems, all the people to operate the automation. And then we also bring people that are doing ancillary tasks. So today we can't install a window with the robot, so a person has to do that,
Okay.
right? So we have people that do that. Same with doors. So there are a couple of different ways people work with us. One of them is that we can just build the entire home, soup to nuts, and just take a slab and deliver back the keys to the front door.
So finishes everything.
Finishes everything. There are some of the home builders want to use their existing trade labor to do some of the finishes. So we're flexible. That's the thing that we want people to understand, is that we can help people solve their labor problems to the degree that they want, right? Our goal is to simply build more homes.
Okay. What, you mentioned one name already, but what was it like for the early adapters, if you will, those home builders that were like, hey, Jack, let's get in bed together? Are you finding that, has it been few, has it been many? Or what's the transcending theme?
So it's an interesting process, because when you talk to people about that, they go, well, super interesting. Believe it when I see it. And then everybody needs right? Everybody needs a proof point. So what we did in our early phase is we took our industrial scale prototype that we'd built with our own capital, raised a small round of venture capital, scaled that up, and then went out and built a house with it.
Okay.
We built a full-size house. We built a 1,500 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. And we were fortunate enough that I had formed this relationship with a couple of people at Century Communities long before we were, even close to having a functional system for them. But they were interested. They said, look, we'll follow you. We'll watch what you do and show us proof points along the way. And so we did that. As we would hit a milestone, they would come in, they'd see what we did, and they said, oh, all right, that's great. Like, you're getting there. And then we said, look, we want to build one of your houses for you as a demonstration project. So they gave us the floor plans for a 1,500 square foot home. And then, although we didn't tell our landlord, we went out into the back parking lot and built the house out back of our facility. And that was kind of a dicey proposition. It's one thing to hide something that maybe is the size of a car,
or a shed.
Hiding something the size of a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house was a challenge unto itself. But so we built that. They came back and they walked through the house and they were blown away. It was really an amazing moment in the history of the company to prove to one of the largest home builders in the country that we could do it. And they even surprised us. They invested in our next funding round, gave us a contract to build 72 homes here in Arizona. We moved the company from Northern California to Phoenix back in early 2022 and started building homes for them that summer.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a great
What
ride.
can you share? I always try to ask questions thinking about, like, if I was listening or watching this podcast, what can you talk about to the economics of it as far as the pros and cons? So, like you said, they became investors. They saw the proof in the pudding. What is it translated to in dollars?
Yeah, so,
outside of the labor issue.
Yeah. So, there's a whole host of things that, as technology guys, we look at, from what can we do today, what can we do tomorrow, and then what does the future look like? These are 3 distinctly different step changes in driving cost out. And so and I'm very transparent with everybody, JJ. It's, what we show are projections to people, and I tell everybody the only thing that proves is I can make an Excel spreadsheet. Right? You have to.
Good job.
Right? You have to actually come look at all of the execution along the journey to keep developing confidence that Diamond Age is going to crack the code on this for you. So the very first thing that we did was roll out a basic set of technology and apply what we call factory in the field principles to it. So one of the things that we do is we're bringing industrial scale engineering to a job site. So what does industrial engineering mean? It means really controlling the entire process from soup to nuts. And the housing industry would like more of that. The problem with it is it's impossible to execute in today's environment, meaning 35 different trade suppliers showing up on a job site. All 35 of them are independent companies, so they're not beholden to each other in coordinating and collaborating. So you wind up with this hodgepodge of activity. That's what's really stretched out the cycle times. It's cost the industry quality.
Agreed.
Right? And so by owning the entire construction stack, we own the entire thing. That's the vertical integration I mentioned earlier. So today we take it all the way through a dried-in shell. We can take it to finishing. The automation is really more prevalent in the front end, the rough-in side of building a home. Right? And we look at the fine finishing side of the business as something that can and probably should stay with people because that's work that people they're more adept at, right? Decision-making, dexterity, those are the kinds of things that are really fit for finishing work.
Well, it's funny you say that because, before we got in there, I shared with you that our company's commercial, but a lot of us have backgrounds in residential, and I was in the residential space for quite a while. And as you were describing this, Jack, I was thinking about that when I come back to the QA/QC, it was like 90% of the finish deviations were caused at the front end. Mm-hmm. I mean, I look at the house I live in, I'm not going to name the name who built my house because it's a track house, and it's a piece of shit. Okay, and I mean, there as a builder, as a construction guy, I look in there and it drives me nuts. Like I ripped out all the flooring, and when I redid the base, literally there was no cut on the base that matched.
Yeah.
I mean, there isn't a plumb or straight wall in my entire house, and it drives me nuts. Can you imagine? Not to patronize you, but I'm thinking, going, wow, if they can give me a robotic delivered QA/QC product that just gets it plumb square and that gives me a chance. And then think of the cabinet guys, and gals hanging how many, wow, I don't need, 30% extra to scribe and do everything on the ends, those kind of.
I can leave all my shims at home.
It all adds up, Jack. That's the point. It's not one thing. It's a cumulative effect.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so that's the one thing that we absolutely deliver in spades is a house that is level, is perpendicular walls, that has parallel, right? Like it's flat on both sides of your load bearing. And it's because we have to, because automation can't work in the loose constraints that define today's construction building code. It has to be better than that because robotics will fail. So instead of dealing in plus or minus 3/16 of an inch over every 10 feet, right? That's code.
Yeah.
We have to deliver something that's plus or minus a millimeter.
There comes a time when dreams become a reality, when you see your vision materialize into a true work of art. And the only way to get there is to choose a general contractor who shares that same vision and knows how to bring it to life. At Bleuwave, we aren't so big that we've forgotten where we've come from, and we aren't so small that we can't care for your projects regardless of their size. When your vision deserves safety, perfection, timeliness, and expertise in order to become a reality, trust Bleuwave to get it done right the first time.
So on that note, one of the other questions that came up, my inner monologue while you were talking was what am I trying to say here? The minimums. You were talking about minimums. Have you been able to go beyond that because of this process? In other words, your minimum is now a maximum compared to the rest of the people, or do you see what I'm getting at? I'm just kind of curious, like what thresholds you guys have determined you want to get to. Like, and I'll use let's talk about a simple one. Just use maybe this as a context. Energy. can you talk around that? Like how much above minimum you are on just?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and so as a baseline, everybody should understand that the number one thing we're trying to solve for is affordability. Like
Okay.
that's number one.
Thanks for qualifying that.
Okay. So anything we do is around affordability. So we're building homes that the industry refers to as builder grade. What is builder grade? That means I'm getting my windows at Home Depot. I'm getting my doors at Home Depot, right? I'm buying the appliances look nice, but they're not Thermador. So they're things that first-time home buyers can afford while having a nice, safe place to live.
Right.
So we delivered our first home, and you're familiar with what a HERS rating is?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Home Energy Rating System is how energy efficient the home is relative to sort of the national average. So the national average for lumber framed homes is a HERS score of 58. Now, HERS is like golf. The lower the score, the better it is. So the national average is 58. We're delivering 48. So when you do the math on that, that says a Diamond Age home is 17% more energy efficient than a lumber framed home. So what does that actually translate to? It translates to almost $1,500 a year in energy savings through heating and cooling. That's a mortgage payment.
Yep.
So, and again, we didn't plan for it to be that way. It just turned out that way because our wall systems act like a thermos bottle.
Right.
They're so tight and we have so few air changes on an hourly basis that we actually have to orchestrate those in so that some of the, you want air changes, you want the air to change over in your house. But we're really able to deliver those kinds of savings to people. That's just a benefit. It's just like...
Yeah, but that can be done efficiently on the mechanical side and, those things. So...
Yeah, but the point is you're not paying anything extra for it.
No,
right?
No.
The wall system we built, again, third-party validated, is almost 4 times safer than a 2x6 lumber framed home in a Category 5 hurricane.
So the insurance rates go down.
Insurance rates should be dramatically better once we get to the Gulf Coast. We are 2x safer than seismic B. What does that mean? It means we can build a Diamond Age home in 92% of the United States without doing anything special. So really
92%. Wow.
So really what we're saying is a house that we're building here in the greater Phoenix metro area, I can pack up and take down to Tampa or Houston and not charge anything more for it, but get all of the benefit that other people who are subject to a higher caliber of building code are subject to.
Okay, now let's take a little deviation and talk about kind of the upside. So great job of explaining it, and thank you for that. Now, if I'm listening or watching this, I'm going, well, Jack, your potential's unlimited. So have you got, you don't just sit there and drink the Kool-Aid and get, oh yeah, now we're going to go worldwide. But because of the success of this, what has happened to you guys in the organization? And, are you being asked to go to all these different markets, or how are you controlling all that? And what's it like to be both euphoric and cautionary at the same time?
Well, yeah. So, the sad reality is today at the stage we're at, we're not finished building out our technology stack. So we've still got probably 1.5 years, 2 years to go. And then we have to make it more rugged, right? Okay. What we build has to live out in the weather alongside Caterpillar front loaders and John Deere tractors, because that's what the construction industry is. It's outdoors. And I say no more than I say yes, because we just don't have the capacity to give to people. If I could hit the magic scaling button and just keep going to the ATM for capital, I could be building for half of the top 10 home builders in the country right now, and probably two of the largest land developers in the country right now. But I have to say no, because we still have a little bit of, we still have work to do.
Is you described it, but do you mind? You said you're transparent without giving away the secrets. What is it when you said you still have maybe a year and a half or 2 years on that side? Is it strictly technology, or is it the application of the technology?
No, it's exclusively technology. So when we talked earlier, we have these 3 different step changes of cost drivers, right? So the very first one is applying industrial engineering, how to get greater labor utilization and equipment utilization, right? So you immediately drive costs down by taking your CapEx and just running it more, right? So more throughput without more labor. That's job 1. Job 2 is we've got all these designs for robotic tools. We got to get them built. We got to get them out in the field, deployed, tested. We're probably only about a third of the way there.
Do you do that in-house, or do you have a strategic partner with that?
No, we do it all in-house.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So we're fundamentally today, if you were to walk by our shop, you'd go, this is an engineering organization.
Yeah.
Right? We've got one person that does marketing and PR, and God bless her, man, she's overworked. But it's just
that's how I found you. So give her a bonus.
Yeah. So we've got all kinds of different engineering talent in house right now. So it's about developing more technology, getting out in the field, iterating on it, because the first time you take it to the field, it doesn't work exactly the way you thought it would. Or you learn things that you didn't expect to learn. And then the third wave of that is when you become successful with items 1 and item 2 is now you can actually change the way the home is built, right? We're changing it by taking labor out, using robotics, but now we can change some of the components. We can change the structure of the roof diaphragm. We can change the structure of the windows and the doors, and how the roof gets papered and tiled. I mean, there's these incredible potentials out there to change the products that make up the home. That's out there a little ways, right? So we want to execute on number 1 and number 2 first, get the proof points there, start building a bunch more homes. Then we'll go back out to the window manufacturers and the roofing material manufacturers.
That makes sense.
Right.
Now, what, again, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, have you had, whether it's capital investors or the end users going, Jack, hurry up because we want you to do multifamily and commercial as well?
Yeah.
Have you been saying no to that? I mean,
or
have you even been embedded in those conversations?
Yeah. So those are short conversations because we don't do multifamily.
Okay.
The technology platform size doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit. Okay.
Right. Commercial, same thing.
Yeah.
Right. So in the world of technology startups, you really need to focus on your product market fit. Yeah. What are you doing, and can you drive to it, raising the least amount of capital and getting the solution in the field as fast as you can? So we chose entry-level housing because that's the gateway product to getting people who are renters who want to be homeowners into homeownership.
You answered that, and I kind of set you up. Not because I did it on purpose, it was happenstance, but I think it was very succinct to how you answered that, because it does go back to exactly how you started the conversation of you asked the tougher questions early on.
Yeah.
And like I said, this wasn't your first startup, so you knew those things, you knew those pitfalls going into it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's great. What haven't I asked you that I should be asking you as far as connecting to the audience about either your product, your company, kind of your platform? Is there any philanthropic type, things that you guys are looking at doing? I'm just kind of curious, like we talked very technical. Is there anything on the emotional side of this?
Yeah, well, there's a couple things. And the first one is that when people think about robotics, they think about people losing their jobs. That is not going to happen here because A, there's already not enough people building homes.
Agreed.
Right? The industry is probably only building at about a 60 to 70% of demand clip. So, I mean, we've got decades worth of houses that need to get built.
And more importantly, affordable.
Affordable, absolutely, right? But the second thing is we're changing what jobs look like in the construction space.
Okay.
So if you think about it today, the first principles problem as to why there aren't more homes being built is because there aren't enough people interested in being in home construction. And when you ask yourself that question, why is that? The answer becomes clear is that physically demanding labor is not what people are interested in doing anymore. We are a service economy. The generations that have come after me have grown up with a smartphone in their hands, right? I mean, we're talking about 2-3 generations of young people that are super tech savvy, and they do not want to be swinging a hammer or holding drywall over their head all day. So what we've done is we've changed the jobs to be more technology focused.
Can I even interject? I'm just speaking from my own experience of when I ask primarily younger people, right, Jack, of the production home building. They say it's boring because it's repetitive. It's like, the first X, fill in the blank, week, month, year. It's challenging, but once I get the process, then it's just repetitive.
It's just a job.
And you're letting the robots take the repetitiveness out of it.
Absolutely.
But then you're still applying that same person instead of here, you're moving it over here and saying, hey, we have plenty of technology to develop. Keep improving this. Go use your brain and your intelligence and the applications and the new world order that we are in society and apply it here instead of here. Yeah. Is that a fair statement?
Well, it is when you apply it to the engineering side of the business. When you talk about the production side of the business, the people that actually take the tech that we develop and use it out in the field, really what we're trying to do for those people is give them more professional satisfaction by not limiting them to a singular task. So
that makes a lot of sense.
Right? When you think about someone who runs a Diamond Age robotic platform, today they sit in an air-conditioned trailer and have a whole bank of monitors in front of them, and they're watching multiple machines building houses at different stages. That's challenging unto itself. They are constantly communicating with people that are out on the foundation, interfacing with the robot as it's building. I mean, the level of, I'm going to call it intensity and adrenaline that goes with that, it's exciting.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when you walk away and you look back and you go, I built that. Like there isn't anything more satisfying than looking at the finished product, except maybe watching, a young family move into it.
Agreed. Well, my friend, is there anything else you'd like to add as far as like about you, Diamond Age, or where you guys are going with all this?
Yeah, I think in regards to Diamond Age's future, we have tremendous tailwinds. The industry recognizes that we are one of them in that we have built this business to do business the way they want to do business. So, we're not trying to be a disruptor to them. We're trying to
Complementary.
We're trying to unlock the potential of the industry.
That's a better way of saying it, yeah.
Right? Because that's, at the end of the day, the thing that's holding affordability back is literally a lack of supply. So, our job is to get a lot more supply into the marketplace so the natural economic transition of supply and demand can balance out, right? Maybe sounds a little esoteric, but I mean, people understand scarcity. All right, if you've had to go out and buy a home and you're competing with 20 other people for the same home, I mean, you understand that.
Pretty simple math.
Yeah, it is pretty simple.
Or pretty
math.
simple economics, I should say.
Yeah. So, we look forward to building across the country in all kinds of different markets, creating jobs, solving affordability in housing, and getting young people back into home ownership earlier in their lives. Right? I bought my first home when I was 26. My dad bought his first home when he was 26. My son bought his first home when he was 31. put him about 9 years ahead of the curve. So we want more people to have the opportunity for home ownership, because really, I mean, whether you buy into the idea of the American dream or not, like we do,
Yeah.
you
should be proud of it.
Yeah, we want people to have access to that.
Well, with that, Jack, I can't thank you enough for coming on today, sharing your story, Diamond Age. I mean, even touching on the Plenty thing. I encourage the audience to go Mac out on that too. No pun intended with Mac and Bleu. But between the two organizations, I just hope you live to be about 300 so you can keep doing these startups. And for the record, Jack described that he does work 7 days a week. Just ask his wife. So based on what your story, I believe it. So try to stay young and enjoy it, my friend.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thanks for coming
me.
on.
Yeah,
All right.
Appreciate it so much.